What up, boys and girls? It is Saturday, November 2nd. Let's talk about tech news this week. The flips, the flops, the disappointments, and hopefully the cool things coming out in the next month or two that change things around a little bit. Let's have a cup of coffee, let's crack a beer, and talk about tech news on this week's Optimized Hardware. All right, so obviously the big story right now is going to be the release of the Ryzen 7 9800X3D. It is an 8-core, 16-thread CPU with a ton of cache on it. We are going to see a small price increase. It looks like about $30 increase off of the old 7800X3D. That's a 6% increase. So hopefully if we're seeing 20 to 30% gain in FPS, that would be awesome and it's worth the buy. I'm also suggesting that a lot of guys just wait a day or two until, Steve and Hardware Unboxed and all those guys do their testing, which they may already be working on before the embargo release. I don't know how that works, and what they can and can't do. But I know AMD in the past has been pretty liberal with letting them get into these CPUs quickly. So I'm expecting a huge uplift, and this is obviously centered towards gamers, the CPU, not like productivity and whatnot. But it should be a good release. It looks like you can now overclock these, which is awesome. So if you're familiar with Curve Optimizer or per core overclocking using OCCT, this could be huge uplifts. And obviously, everybody's looking for the most FPS. I feel like that's where people are so critical of CPUs. Is like if it doesn't have the highest FPS, they don't want it. And this may be the new king. So let's see if this new AMD CPU can knock out its old predecessor for the cost increase and be worth it. So let's look out for November 7th and the release coming up. So we've only got a couple days to go till we see this new CPU that's supposed to be the new big guy on the block. Mac releasing the new M4 chip for their new products, all shipping out. Looks like November 8th. If you are a Mac user, hold on. Okay, sorry. I'm not a big Mac fan. I like PCs and gaming and overclocking, so it's not really my thing. The new M4 chip is supposedly really quick at rendering and workload stuff, so the testing has shown that it's faster than some of the mainstream desktop processors as far as like compute, compile, and all that stuff. So it looks like it had some good benchmarks. But if you like Mac, MacBook Pro, whatever, and you want one, they're dropping now and they're shipping November 8th. So if that's your thing, go grab yourself a Mac. Personally, not me. In other news, Microsoft is to charge $30 per year for Windows 10 users for staying on that for security updates, which I think is really scummy of them. It's not like they need the money. But if you are looking at updating to Windows 11, now is probably the time and to get onto that. There is nominal benchmark differences if you're really stickler about performance. Early on, Windows 10, Windows 11 release, I did see some better gains with Windows 10, and there was a lot of controversy about that. But right now, the performance is pretty spot on. It's neck and neck. So, and some people are saying Windows 11 is actually a little quicker. Depends on your platform. If you are having a hard time updating to Windows 11, say like on older AM4 platforms or whatever platform it may be, it might be a BIOS setting. So you can reach out in the comments below if you need any help figuring out where you need to make adjustments in the BIOS, because all the manufacturers for motherboards are a little different in the terminology they use as far as like ASRock, MSI, or Asus. So if you need help, please comment below and I'll see if I can help you out. And if you need a hardware upgrade at this point, maybe now's the time, because paying $30 a year is a little crazy for just security updates. But anyway, I thought that was rather crappy of Microsoft. So we really appreciate you charging us $30 for security updates. That's super sweet of you. So maybe now is the time to move on to Windows 11. All right, let's talk about AMD RX 8000 series GPUs to be released January at CES 2025. It looks like the new RDNA 4 architecture will bring big improvements for ray tracing and AI capabilities. Memory is still GDDR6 with speeds up to 20 gigabytes. The chipset lineup will include Navi 48 and Navi 44. 48 is expected to be the flagship model, of course, while the 44 is going to be for the mid-range, buyers that are looking for like 1080p or 1440p gaming. It's supposed to be a big gain in performance. We heard that last release and saw okay, gains in it. I've had good results with AMD GPUs, and for value to performance, they are pretty good. Ray tracing is really what they're focusing on right now. They're saying the ray tracing performance is supposed to be much, much better. It looks like they're definitely aiming towards mid-range market. They're not trying to go to bat with the 5090, of course. So we'll see that at CES release. Excited to see that, and hopefully that helps split the market up a little bit, and give some people some options other than Nvidia, because Nvidia's pricing may be really high. We'll talk about that shortly. But hopefully AMD brings something really good to the table. Maybe it'll surprise us with some really big uplifts. But like I said, we'll have to wait and see what happens at CES. CES should have a lot of cool releases coming out, and I'm excited to see what drops at CES. I'm going to try to get out there this year and see what happens. But hopefully the RX 8000 series GPUs and the new architecture will bring some great performance at a decent price, and hopefully AMD keeps their pricing pretty fair to try to beat up on Nvidia. And of course, I don't see Intel really being competitive in this market. I haven't heard any release dates on any new ARC stuff coming out. But we'll see what happens. So good luck to you, AMD. I hope you drop a nice GPU for us all to use, and it offers some really good performance. So we'll have to see at CES. All right, I want to have a candid talk about the new Intel Arrowlake CPU. So to be quite honest, it seemed like a huge disappointment for a lot of people. I know there's a lot of fear in buying 13th and 14th gen CPUs right now, but honestly, they perform better than the Intel Arrowlake CPUs. So I know compute's decent, but what Intel is selling to really is a gamer's market at this point for the desktops. The new motherboards look really nice. I know there's a lot of new features. I know there's the power efficiency gains, which that's great. And, I hear all this stuff. It's a restructuring like AMD did in the past. But honestly, like Intel really needed to hit it out of the park on this one. And after some testing and everything, like I'm not going to run the new Core 9 Ultra, whatever gigantic title that CPU is. I'm selling the one I have. I have no interest in keeping it. My system is really stable on my 14900K. Uh, it's kind of disappointing, and it looks like it's all the way down the line, like the i7, the i5. Um, at this point, if someone were to say, "Hey, what do you want to buy?" If you're not comfortable, you fear, anything with the 13th or 14th gen on the Intel side, 12th gen's a really decent CPU still. So 12900K, 12700K is a really decent CPU. Or I'm going to tell you to just go AMD and use Ryzen. Look, it's great that it's really fast in like Cinebench and all that stuff, but people want to play games, and they want to play games at a high refresh rate, and a lot of FPS. So I'm not saying that CPU doesn't perform well. I'm sure it's fine. There is big question marks on RAM and what to use and what has the best performance. And I think there is some performance gain out there with RAM. But it's just so early on, and I feel like it was a really rushed launch, especially for the Core 9 Ultra or whatever. Um, so a little bit of a disappointing release, and people were saying like, oh, it's not going to sell well, but they are sold out everywhere on the Core 9 Ultra at everywhere I've looked. So on Amazon, Newegg, my Micro Center, they're not available. So people obviously lined up at the door to buy them. I'm sure they performed decent, but people were looking for something stable, obviously, that didn't self-destruct and that had good gaming performance. I don't think Intel delivered the good gaming performance and the high benchmarks that it needed to on this release. Is it a bad CPU? Nope, it's not a bad CPU. All of them are decent, and I think everybody's expectations are extremely high on every new release, but Intel needed to really set a higher benchmark and standard with the CPU to be stable, to be fast, and be competitive with AMD, and I don't think they did that. And now that this new AMD CPU is coming out, with the V cache and everything, I mean, I have a feeling Intel's just going to get its teeth kicked in, and I'm sure it is. So that's disappointing. And my suggestion, if you wanted to buy one and you're like just your Intel and that's what you use, it's fine. Go ahead and grab one. If you have fear of, being on a 13th gen or 14th gen, sure. If you're on 13th gen or 14th gen Intel right now and you're thinking it is an upgrade, it is not. So I wouldn't do it. And even in the compute area, like if you're worried about power or whatever, which I don't think any gamer is, like, I've got a 1500-watt power supply in my rig because I'm on a 4090 and an i9 and all that. I'm not worried about power consumption. I'm worried about raw performance, and a good experience, using my computer. So, for Intel to be like, it's really efficient, great. Who cares? We had the same thing with the last, the AMD CPUs that just recently released. Like, people were like, great, it's power efficient, but there wasn't really giant gains in it. So obviously that's not what people were looking for. They're looking for raw performance. I don't go to a Ferrari dealer to get good gas mileage. I want something that's insane, that's fast, and it does all the things. So with Airlake, I really feel like they missed the mark. Is it a bad CPU again? No, I don't think it is. But is it like insane performance or like value? No. The price is still really high on those CPUs. So the value's not there for me. The benchmarks definitely were not all they're cracked up to be. I mean, it did okay. It's like in the middle of the road. But if you're on a 13700K or like a 13900K or 14700 or a 14900, is it worth jumping over to Airlake? Probably not. If you're not having any kind of stability issues, I wouldn't touch it. Even if you're on like a 12900K, I wouldn't make the jump. No, I really wouldn't. I will say with the stability issues and the degradation stuff that's going on with 13th and 14th gen, it looks like the microcode has helped out a lot. I have a lot of customers running i7s and i9s in those generations. They've had zero issues. And some of those had BIOSes on them pre-microcode update. I do make adjustments, of course, in the BIOS to keep the CPU safe, and I haven't seen giant voltage spikes. If I see a failure, I'll RMA it for my customer without a problem. But I do find it rather disappointing with the Airlake release. So I do have some benchmarks that I could share with people, but at this point, it's just like a complete waste of time. Will I build a couple and sell some? I'm sure I will. But my personal suggestion would be I probably wouldn't buy the CPU. Intel, if you want to prove me wrong, make some improvements, figure it out, get the BIOS dialed in, whatever you got to do some updates. But right now, it looks like a pretty disappointing launch. So Airlake, in my opinion, was kind of a flop. Exciting news is, of course, about Blackwell. January CES of 2025, NVIDIA is going to launch the 5090, the 5090D, and the 5080 series. I'm sure pricing is going to be up around like $2,000 for the 5090 plus. February is due to see the 5070 Ti and the 5070 series release. And then March, we're planning on seeing 5060 Ti and 5060 series. There's no talks of any super cards coming out yet, so we'll have to see what happens. Maybe NVIDIA is going to pull that trick out of their sleeve again, and we'll see how that goes. That's really all we have for tech news this week. I want to cut a little short, been going a little long here. I would like to thank our big Facebook group at Custom PC Builders. We've got 90,000 members there. Would love to help you out if you're having any kind of trouble with your PC, whether it's hardware or software, gaming, or any kind of build issues you're having. A bunch of great members there. It's a friendly group, and they love to help you out. Would also like to thank Ugreen for making some great products and helping out our Facebook group as well. If you're on the go and you need something to charge something really, really quick, quick, or storage solutions. They have all kinds of options out there, so please go check out Ugreen. It's a great company to make some good products, and I've been using this thing for quite some time, and it's awesome. And I'd like to thank you guys, the viewers, for tuning into my YouTube channel, and please like and subscribe to the channel. It helps me out, and I appreciate you guys for watching and hanging out with me. And let's hope you have a great week ahead. Let's hope for some cool stuff to be released coming out shortly, and happy gaming, happy building, and we'll see you on the next Optimized Hardware. Take care and have a good one.